The day my father was sent by the corporation to the overseas branch, Ethan Walker brought back his first love who had just gotten divorced. He came to my room and informed me expressionlessly, "Next week, I'll have Lily move in. I've owed her too much over the years. No matter what you think, you'll have to accept it." My father got involved in a workplace sexual harassment scandal and just stepped down from his position as CEO. He couldn't even wait a single day. I looked up at him. His gaze was as cold as an ice cellar in winter, devoid of any warmth. After 3 years of marriage, I still couldn't find my way into his heart. I turned my face away in panic, hiding the heartache. "All right, anyway, I'll be leaving soon. It doesn't matter who he wants to bring home." Ethan seemed a bit surprised. His lips moved, but in the end, he said nothing. He's always been sparing with words toward me. After he left, I opened the safe and pulled out a stack of documents from beneath the jewelry box. It was from 3 years ago when Ethan wrote me a divorce agreement. It bore his signature and thumbprint. All it would take was a trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the certificate, and he and I would be completely severed. At a business dinner 3 years ago, I was instantly smitten by the strikingly handsome Ethan. Within less than 3 days, his family sent signals of their intention for a marriage alliance. I thought it was fate bringing us together, until someone told me, "Lily Campbell is getting married." That day, Ethan was dead drunk. I made him some sobering soup and brought it to the study. He was slumped over the desk, his eyes bloodshot, murmuring, "Ella Monroe." My heart warmed, and I hurried over. He grabbed the glass on the table and smashed it to the ground, sending shards flying everywhere. I shuddered in fear and took 2 steps back. The usually gentle and refined Ethan gritted his teeth and said, "Ella, it's all your fault. If it weren't for your attraction to me, if it weren't for your CEO father, how could I be forced to marry you? How could I just stand by and watch Lily marry someone else?" His tone was filled with resentment. So this was the truth. The happy marriage I had imagined was nothing but my own wishful fantasy. This breath is stuck in my chest. It won't come up. Nor will it go down. It's suffocating me to the point where tears keep falling uncontrollably. Ethan staggered to his feet to grab a pen, hastily signing the divorce agreement and pressing his fingerprint onto it. Then he tossed that flimsy piece of paper to me. He spoke coldly. "I want a divorce from you to marry Lily and bring her home." He was too drunk to be coherent. Even uttering such words, I struggled to contain my emotions, my voice trembling. "You're drunk now. We'll talk when you're sober." I bent down to pick up that piece of paper, turned around, and walked out, closing the door behind me. Tears fell like broken strings of pearls, continuously streaming down. I returned to the room alone. The night wind was cold, yet it couldn't blow away my pain. The next day, Ethan sobered up and returned to his usual polite demeanor. Regarding Lily, he didn't mention a word, nor did he bring up divorcing me again. I tucked that divorce agreement at the very bottom of my dressing table, fooling myself into thinking, Ethan's first love just got married, so there's still a chance for us. But Lily's marriage is unhappy. 2 months ago, Ethan personally sought out the most professional lawyer to help her with the divorce case. He felt sorry for her being alone, so he brought her to Jiangcheng to settle down. Now, she was to move into the Walker family. While I was taking stock of my assets, Ethan led Lily inside. "When I got married, my father gave me a dowry worth 80 million. Now I need to carefully account for each item, convert them into cash, and help my father's company through the crisis." Ethan pushed the door open and entered. I turned off my phone and stood up. He said, "Lily wants to live in this room. You should move out." His tone was icy, leaving no room for discussion. After marrying Ethan, he often worked late into the night. He said he was afraid of disturbing my rest. So he specifically asked me to move out of the master bedroom, because this room is closest to Ethan's bedroom. The balcony is adorned with clusters of flowers, including roses he planted himself, and the terrace still holds the swing from our wedding days. Lily hides beside him, cautiously peeking around. A pair of envious eyes roams about, taking everything in. I looked up, refusing him for the first time. "No, the house is so big, it's not like there's no place to stay. Why must it be this room?" She tugged at Ethan's sleeve, her expression somewhat aggrieved. Ethan darkened. "Because Lily likes it. These roses were originally prepared for her. So, this place was prepared for Lily from the very beginning. Lily smiled at me. Her smile was gentle, like the roses blooming on the balcony. I stared at her. Ethan immediately shielded her behind him, his tone icy cold. "You're moving out today. Be obedient. Don't make this embarrassing for everyone." I lowered my eyes and said softly, "Okay." My father had already lost his power, and the company was in crisis. My greatest support was gone. "Ethan, you don't need to be polite with me anymore." Before evening, I had already moved to the secluded guest room. Then I took out Ethan's gifted jewelry and bags to sell at a luxury resale shop. I've bought many things here before, so, as soon as SA saw me, he smiled and led me to the VIP room. I placed each item on the table one by one. And the diamond ring he gave me during the proposal was the first to catch my eye. At that time, he was deeply mired in a bankruptcy crisis. Yet he used all his savings to buy me this small, exquisite ring. The second item was the Cartier bracelet he bought for me after his company went public. The third item was that Tiffany necklace he gave me as an apology after his drunken misbehavior. At the time, I loved wearing this necklace when I went to see him. The crystal pendant would sparkle in the sunlight, and he would smile and hug me. He said I was lively and adorable, different from those reserved girls. SA widened her eyes. "These seem to be Walker's gifts from years ago. Are you really selling them?" I said. "Yes." She carefully examined the jewelry and bags, then finally quoted me a price. I nodded in agreement and was about to leave after receiving the money. "It's very lively outside." Ethan's dotting voice came to the ear. "Do you like this necklace?" Lily answered shyly. "I do." Ethan swiped the card without hesitation and bought it. When he made the payment, he looked up at me with a hint of surprise in his eyes. His gaze fell on my empty fingers. The diamond ring I never took off was gone. Ethan put down the bank card, grabbed my hand, and stared into my eyes, asking, "Ella, where's your ring?" I turned my head away, avoiding his gaze, and lied, "I didn't wear it." His expression darkened, and the grip in his hand tightened, making me wince in pain. Lily hurriedly grabbed his wrist. "Ethan." Only then did he snap out of it and release his grip, then smiled at her absently. I lost my composure just now. I left alone under the strange gazes of those around me. The 6th day before departure, I was alone in the room, sorting through documents. My mother-in-law called me over and told me to move out of Walker's house immediately. I made an excuse that I still had things to do and politely declined. Her expression immediately changed as she scolded me. "You've been married for 3 years with no sign of pregnancy. Do you expect my son not to find someone else?" I lowered my head and replied, "Of course he can. But first, your son needs to agree to divorce me. Ethan wants to marry his first love." "What does that have to do with me? Anyway, the divorce papers are already signed. The only thing left is to get the divorce certificate with Ethan." I couldn't be bothered to argue and brushed her off with a perfunctory response. On my way back to the room, I ran into Ethan again. He was wearing a white shirt, handsome and tall, accompanying Lily for afternoon tea on the terrace. She wore her newly purchased diamond necklace, smiling as she poured him coffee. As she bent over, the necklace refracted dazzling rays of sunlight. Steaming hot coffee poured into the bone china cup, their gazes lingering in the misty vapor. "He always says he's busy with work, staying in the office all day. He's never done anything like this with me." I quickly turned around and hurried back to the room. My thoughts were in chaos. I couldn't focus on the documents in my hands at all. I fell in love with him at first sight in my youth, and it trapped me for 3 whole years. Only now do I see clearly, Ethan was just playing a role with me, while his true feelings were for Lily. I stared blankly at the documents until my secretary Xiaxue brought me the asset inventory files of my company. "Madam, everything has been checked. Apart from the portion initially used for the company investment, a few pieces of jewelry are missing." I suddenly looked up. "Which ones, originally?" "My parents gave me too many dowry items, and I couldn't remember them all," she said. "A diamond necklace, a wedding dress, a diamond necklace. I remember seeing it around Lily's neck." I barged into Lily's room. She was standing in front of the full-length mirror, trying on the wedding dress my mother had personally designed for me. "Her wedding with Ethan is in 6 days. Too hasty." I suspect Ethan had secretly arranged everything in advance. Never expected she would dare to wear that one-of-a-kind wedding dress. Trembling with anger, I stepped forward and grabbed the hem of the dress. The delicate lace and pearl decorations were torn off by me, scattering across the floor. I yanked at the dress forcefully until the fabric made a tearing sound. She curled up in pain, forced to bend over. I was wrong. I'll take it off now. I tightly gripped the wedding dress, watching her coldly. Lily collapsed to the floor in front of the mirror. The wedding dress was in disarray, its skirt torn in a large piece. With pearls and lace scattered across the floor, she looked utterly disheveled, her eyes brimming with tears as she gazed at me. Miss Monroe, if you wanted me to take it off, you could have just said so. Was it necessary to resort to force? With a cold expression, I nudged her with the tip of my foot. You dared to steal and wear my wedding dress, and now you're talking back. She buried her head and just cried, like a little white flower that had been wronged. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind me. Ethan strode in, pushed me aside, and pulled Lily into his arms. I staggered back 2 steps, instinctively grabbing onto the nearby dressing table to steady myself. The wedding dress slipped from my hands to the floor, its fabric already tattered and torn. He looked at me, his eyes filled with disgust and unfamiliarity, as if I were a complete stranger he'd never met before. Ella, I said, I just want to make up for the regrets of the past. Why are you making things difficult for her? A fire burned in my chest, leaving me speechless. After a long while, I managed to squeeze out a sentence. That was the wedding dress my mother designed herself. His voice was icy. It's just a piece of clothing. What's the harm in lending it to her for a few days? Would rather tear it to pieces than lend it to someone. Do you still think you're the Monroe family's young miss? Know your limits. I stood rooted to the spot. In this season of warm spring blossoms, my entire body felt chilled. Ethan always knows exactly how to hit where it hurts. The wedding dress can no longer be worn. Lily snuggled into Ethan's arms, frowning as she glanced disdainfully at the damaged dress. He comforted her softly. Don't worry, I'll order a new one right away. It'll definitely be ready for the wedding. I bent down to pick up the torn wedding dress and silently walked away. My chest felt as if it were being squeezed, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. Just a few more days of endurance, until the paperwork is done, then I'll leave. I converted most of my dowry, jewelry, and property into cash and stored it away safely. Ethan ignored me all day and didn't come until evening. He said my dad was transferred to an overseas branch and would leave in 3 days, with my mom accompanying him. Ethan stood by the door, backlit, his handsome face hidden in the shadows. Ella, if you hadn't married me, you'd be a down-and-out heiress by now. I told you, it's just a formality between me and Lily to make up for the regrets of the past. Your position as Mrs. Walker won't be shaken. I remained silent. If it weren't for falling in love with him at first sight back then, if our family had formed a marriage alliance with other wealthy families in Jiangcheng, we wouldn't have fallen into such a state and had to endure these humiliations. Seeing that I remained silent, he took a diamond ring from his pocket and threw it heavily onto the dressing table. You lied to me and secretly sold it. He emphasized the word lied with great force. Clearly furious, I spoke lightly. If you don't want them anymore, just sell them. What's the big deal? He frowned deeply. The secretary said you've been selling a lot of your dowry lately. He stared at me intently, his gaze piercing. You don't wear jewelry or meet guests. What do you need so much money for? I met his gaze calmly. My father was transferred overseas. The journey is long, and there are many things to take care of along the way. That was indeed the truth. Ethan then proceeded to throw the items I had sold one by one onto the dressing table. The jewelry clinked together, emitting a crisp sound. His expression darkened. You've sold everything I gave you. Ella, are you doing this to spite me? I lowered my head to adjust the necklace before placing it back in the jewelry box. With a click, the box lid was closed. Then take it abroad to sell. He can't control things that far away anyway. I whispered softly. No, I wasn't angry with him. I've long grown indifferent to what he gives. Ethan let out a cold laugh. Lily is the one I was meant to spend my life with. You have no right to be jealous of her. I responded numbly. I know, then let's get a divorce. His true love is Lily. They are truly meant for each other. I've heard him say this too many times. I'm sick of it. The room fell into silence. I continued with my task. Folding the dresses one by one. Once I'm abroad, I won't have to wear such extravagant clothes anymore. Noticing my unusual quietness today, Ethan softened his tone and said, "Leave these things to the servants." I forced a faint smile and casually replied, "Okay." There are only 2 days left until Ethan and Lily's wedding. The villa was adorned with festive decorations. Even outside my remote room, you could see them just by opening the window. On the red banner was Ethan's handwriting. "I take your hand in mine, to grow old together with you. I wish to win the heart of one, and never part till old age." 3 years ago when I married him, none of this existed. I gaze out the window. Lily appears at the end of the corridor. She was very happy today, her eyes curved with joy, walking briskly towards this side. The white wedding dress fluttered like a light cloud. She stopped at my door and said gently, "Miss Monroe, what kind of necklace do you think I should choose for the wedding day?" She was wearing the wedding dress she had just tried on, her hair not yet styled, looking like an innocent young girl. I said, "It's not your first marriage. Shouldn't you have some experience? Why bother asking me specifically?" Her expression froze, and her face instantly turned pale. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Ethan had unknowingly emerged from around the corridor corner, his gaze icy. "Ella, you're a woman too. Why must you provoke her with the past? It was Lily who wanted to improve her relationship with you, which is why she specifically came to discuss it. She clearly came to show off, but Ethan couldn't see it. His eyes were only for her." I stood at the door, looking down at her from above. "Wear whatever necklace you like. All right, I've answered you. Now you can leave." Her eyes reddened as she took 2 steps back, leaning weakly and helplessly against Ethan. Ethan frowned. "Threatening me? Ella, I can make sure your family's company never recovers at any moment." I looked at his face, feeling nothing but bitterness in my heart. I stiffly pulled at the corner of my mouth, then suddenly laughed until tears came. "Ethan, the divorce papers, you've already signed them," he sneered. "If it weren't for the wedding being imminent, I'd go file for divorce with you right now." He was accustomed to speaking harsh words to me. Everything can be said so easily. I leaned against the doorframe, silently watching them walk away. Lily gently held his arm, her face glowing with a blissful smile. The crystal chandelier in the hallway cast a soft glow on their profiles. They are such a perfect match. I took a deep breath to calm myself, then said to the servant beside me, "Prepare the car. Tomorrow, I'm going to the civil affairs office." I returned to my room, took out the divorce agreement from the drawer, signed my name, and pressed my fingerprint. Done in one go. With both parties' signatures and fingerprints, the procedures were quickly completed. Now that the Monroe family has declined, Ethan wanting to cut ties with me is only natural. The Civil Affairs Bureau staff didn't ask any further questions. I moved my household registration back to my parents' home. By the time I finished everything and returned to the villa, it was almost noon. Tomorrow is the wedding, and the entire villa is bustling with activity. So, no one had time to pay attention to me. I went back to my room and packed the things I needed to take with me. I packed 2 suitcases, had someone take them out of the villa first, and then sent a message to my parents. The flight is early tomorrow morning. The house had been tidied up spotlessly, as if no one had ever lived there. In the evening, Ethan's assistant brought me a set of formal attire. She lowered her head and said, "This was Walker who always asked me to deliver it to the madam. The fabric was personally selected by the CEO 2 months ago. He said you could wear it to the wedding tomorrow." The fabric was haute couture silk, shimmering with a soft luster under the warm yellow light. The maid in the room took the dress from her. She still hasn't left and remains standing at the door. "Walker asked me to relay a message to you. What he said yesterday was all in anger. Please don't take it to heart. His words are like water spilled on the ground." My wound still throbs with a dull pain. I remained silent for a moment, then simply nodded to indicate I had heard. She cautiously looked up and asked softly, "Does Madam have anything she'd like to say to Walker?" The night wind was cold, making my eyes sting. I slowly replied, "No, you should go back early to report." She left very soon. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Ethan on the wedding day, I woke up very early. At the break of dawn, I changed into a low-key plain-colored dress and went out wearing sunglasses, the butler still recognized me and casually asked, "Miss Monroe, where are you heading? The wedding will start in just an hour. Lily is about to become Mrs. Walker." As for me, the divorce with Ethan has long been a settled matter. To distinguish, he called me by my full name. I just smiled and said, "To the airport, to pick up my parents. No need to tell Ethan." He nodded and said, "Okay." I got into the car and drove toward the airport. The wedding guests all headed in the direction of Walker's villa. Opposite to my route, I pulled down the sun visor and stared blankly at my toes. 3 years ago, I married Ethan and we had a period of mutual respect and harmony. Back then, I was too naive. I mistakenly thought Lily was already married. And since he chose me, our marriage could last. I naively believed that as long as I gave my sincere heart, I would receive his response in return. Until a year ago, Lily suddenly contacted him. After he married me, the Walker Group's performance soared, and its market value multiplied several times. I love him, and my father supports him. His career is flourishing, his future is bright, and he is even more triumphant than when he first succeeded in his ventures. But his white moonlight was not doing well. After marriage, her husband kept a mistress outside, and she lived in pain every day. The 25-year-old girl was mentally and physically exhausted, growing thinner by the day. She couldn't help but confide in her childhood sweetheart. The messages filled with declarations of love and the tearful phone calls kept the two lovers apart. Fate played a cruel joke, for she was meant to be Ethan's wife. They were supposed to go from school uniforms to wedding gowns. Because Ethan felt guilty towards her, he harbored resentment towards me. So from that moment on, Ethan secretly supported her while distancing himself from me. I think, now that I've come to realize it, it's too late for regrets. An hour later, I boarded a plane abroad. My parents knew I had already divorced Ethan. They just sighed, regretting that they had misjudged the person, causing me to endure so much pain. I pressed my lips together, not daring to speak. It was my foolishness. One mistake after another. After a journey of more than 10 hours, I finally arrived at my parents' house abroad. I was initially worried about not being able to adapt to the new environment, but I only fell ill for a few days due to jet lag at first, and then quickly adjusted. Mom planted flowers and fruit trees in the yard. The climate here is mild, and everything grows well. Dad's position is quite marginalized, and most of our previous savings have been frozen. Here, I live a very relaxed and happy life. I get to eat fruits unavailable back home and see landscapes unseen in our country. The sunshine and sea breeze here are refreshing and uplifting, and I've gradually fallen in love with the life here. Slowly, I've let go of the past. Those Ethan shared moments have all become hazy. Occasional tenderness, rare joy, long lonely nights, unnoticed waiting, everything has vanished with the wind, as if a lifetime ago. After returning from the wedding of my father's friend's son, my mother took my hand, frowned, and asked me, "I noticed you were spacing out just now. Were you thinking about him again?" I paused for a moment, then answered honestly, "I was wondering how the steamed fish at the banquet was made. It tastes different from how Mom makes it." She burst out laughing. "Let your dad ask about it tomorrow." I hugged Mom's arm and nuzzled against her playfully. Pure bliss, before the wedding begins. Ethan paused for a long time outside Ella's door. He wanted to explain that this wedding was merely to make up for his past with Lily from their youth. It was only meant to compensate Lily. As for divorcing Ella, it was a moment of impulse, not his true intention. He just wanted her to understand that at this moment, she could only rely on him. Somehow, he had started using sharp words to hurt her. At this moment, Ethan was filled with regret. Regret for saying those hurtful words. Regret for repeatedly piercing her heart. There was no movement in the room, so he asked the butler, "Where is the madam?" The butler thought he was asking about Lily, so he replied, "The madam is doing her makeup." He said, "Good, yesterday, Ethan had someone send Ella a set of formal attire. He had it custom-made 2 months ago. Every time he saw exquisite items, he thought about buying them for her. The light pink color suits her very well." He imagined how that dress would look on her and couldn't help but curl the corner of his mouth. But until the wedding began, he still hadn't seen Ella. His eyelid twitched as he asked the butler again, "Where's my wife?" The butler lowered his head, voice trembling as he replied, "Madam went to the airport early this morning to see off President Monroe. The wedding hour arrived. Ethan didn't have time to care about Lily behind him as he rushed into the villa's guest room and pushed the door open. The room was unnervingly tidy, as if no one had ever lived there. Only that pale pink dress lay there quietly, perfectly intact. Ethan's heart instantly plunged into an abyss, his chest torn by excruciating pain. She was really going to leave him. Ethan rushed to the garage, got into a sports car, and sped out the gate under the astonished gazes of the guests. Lily stumbled after him, her wedding dress dragging on the ground, tears smearing her makeup. "Ethan, please don't go, he is the groom. The protagonist of this wedding. How could the protagonist be absent from his own wedding? Moreover, this is the wedding he has been looking forward to for many years." So, he watched helplessly as that car disappeared from view, his body collapsed onto the steps, oceans apart. Perhaps I'll never see her again. He covered his face with his hands, tears slipping through his fingers. The sound of his anguished sobs was heartbreaking. Everyone was startled. The assistant rushed over. "Mr. Walker." What happened? He couldn't speak. Behind them, above the villa, fireworks prepared a day early bloomed in the blue sky. This should have been the happiest moment of his life. But Ella had already left. His mind went blank, and only then did he realize. Lily was merely an obsession he couldn't let go of from his youth. He always thought he married Ella only due to family pressure. He believed he should hate her, should distance himself from her, should make it up to Lily, day and night together. He dared not admit that he had long been deeply in love with Ella. At this very moment, Ethan finally understood. Gone Ella, his life would lose all its colors. "I thought I would stay abroad for a long time. But 2 years later, my father was reinstated as the group's vice president, and the company's internal crisis had been resolved. Dad also won the sexual harassment lawsuit, and the scandals about him vanished in an instant. Not only my uncle helped my dad find evidence, but also Ethan." When mentioning Ethan, my dad's expression was calm, without even a frown. For Ethan, my dad was both his former father-in-law and a benefactor who offered timely help. His concern for my dad's situation seems quite reasonable. In spring, I returned to the country with my parents. The original villa had long been auctioned off, so Dad took us to move into a villa in the suburbs. Ethan, on the day of his visit, a light drizzle drifted through the sky. He stood at the door, holding a black umbrella. The fine rain weaves a curtain between us, like a layer of sheer gauze. I recall that first glance when we met. He stood out in the crowd, his presence extraordinary, faintly discernible, like a hidden treasure. As time passed, he grew much thinner. The sharp edges of his youth faded, now resembling a deep pool of water, calm and unrippled. Seeing him again, my heartbeat remained steady as usual. Standing under the eaves, I tucked my hands into my pockets and asked him with my head lowered, "Walker, what brings you here?" His voice was hoarse. "Ella, the divorce was just a momentary impulse. I'm just angry that you sold all the gifts I gave you." I stared at him and slowly said, "Ethan, you've said such angry words twice now. The first time, I deceived myself and hid the divorce papers. The second time, I mustered my courage and divorced Ethan." His brows furrowed, his gaze filled with confusion, as if memories were fading from his mind. After all, he was drunk at the time. "And that incident was already 2 years in the past," I said calmly. "When you were drunk, you said it was all because of me that Lily married someone else. The divorce agreement was what you wrote back then. 2 years ago, I took that agreement and finalized the divorce with you. Now we've become complete strangers. If you need to discuss business with my father, I can relay the message for you." His face suddenly turned deathly pale, his lips trembling slightly as he struggled to utter a few words in an extremely low voice. "Ella, I came specifically to see you. In that case, there's nothing left to discuss." I took a few steps back and closed the door. "This door blocks out everything from the outside world," the security guard told me. Ethan had been standing guard outside the door all night, until Lily came looking for him. On my 3rd day back in the country, I happened to attend a charity auction hosted by a friend in the industry. I accompanied several familiar ladies from our social circle to visit the exhibition. Lily was also mingling in the crowd. She looked gloomy, wearing simple accessories, shrinking alone in a corner. No one was willing to engage with her. Ethan had made a grand spectacle when he brought her home, making it known to everyone. Her involvement in someone else's marriage has long been no secret. People around her avoid her like the plague, whispering behind her back, calling her the other woman who forced me to leave. In such a formal setting, she could only endure the cold stares alone. I ignored her, focusing on the tiramisu in front of me. Mrs. Lin kept chattering in my ear, from being the wife of a playboy to becoming the spouse of a corporate executive. What more could she possibly want? After a moment of contemplation, I spoke up. Perhaps what she's looking for goes beyond just that. I handed Mrs. Lin a macaron. She sat down and enjoyed afternoon tea with me. The aroma of desserts filled the air, adding a touch of warmth to the auction. Mrs. Lin couldn't calm her mind. After just a couple of bites, she ran off to take photos. At this moment, Lily quietly approached, her tone full of resentment. "Ella, this is all your fault." I looked slightly confused. "Are you blaming me again? Though I'm young and healthy, I can't bear so much responsibility," she continued. "If you hadn't married Ethan back then, I could have been with him 5 years ago. I wouldn't have suffered so much, and he wouldn't have you in his heart. We wouldn't have ended up like this, so tired of each other." I pressed my temples, feeling a dull ache in my forehead. "Why don't you blame him?" This left her momentarily speechless. I began. "The family went bankrupt, and to turn the tide, Ethan would have chosen someone else even if he didn't marry me. At just 27, he became the president of Walker Corporation. It's a position many spend their entire lives striving for but never reach. His classmates from the same graduating class are still working for him now. If he truly wanted to marry you, no one could stop him. It's just that he can't let go of these fame and benefits. You should be grateful he married someone as easygoing as me. If it were someone else, they would have made your affair public the moment you sent Ethan the first message." Actually, when Ethan helped her escape her unhappy marriage, I also felt relieved for her, happy that she had finally escaped her suffering. But gradually, I lost my fondness for her, because, like the former me, she was too naive. I finished speaking these words slowly, put down the dessert in my hand, and prepared to leave. Her eyes turned red, standing alone by the flower bushes. Tears kept falling uncontrollably. I had a great time. When I came home in the evening, my mother told me that several people had asked friends to inquire about my marriage. I said, "I don't want to remarry. I've already been through it once. Marriage isn't all that great, it just brings a lot of trouble. You have to manage household chores, support your husband's career, and think about having children. If you don't choose the right person, you'll have to endure a lot of grievances. Being alone, on the other hand, is much more carefree and comfortable." Mom respected my wishes and turned down all the introductions. At home, I helped Mom manage daily life and occasionally went out with friends. Life was quite comfortable. Ethan often sent me gifts. Sometimes they were limited edition luxury items. Other times long handwritten letters. I returned these exactly as they were. On an ordinary night, Lily suddenly came to visit. She had become much thinner, her whole appearance haggard. The night was chilly outside, so I still let her come in, her eyes brimming with tears. She apologized. "I was really foolish back then. I was the one who wronged you." With a calm expression, I handed her a pack of tissues to wipe her tears. She said, "Ethan only provided for her but rarely came home, living in that mansion, ignored by everyone." She felt deeply depressed every day. Back then, it was Ethan who broke his promise to marry her. Now, it's also Ethan who treats her with indifference. She sobbed and said, "I hate him to death." Resting my chin in my hand, I listened, unsure how to evaluate this relationship. "Just don't transfer that resentment onto me." Lily seemed to have been holding it in for a long time, pouring out her heart to me incessantly. I listened drowsily. Finally, she cautiously asked, "Can you forgive me? Back then, I competed with you for a man, took your husband away, and broke your heart. I truly know I was wrong." After a brief thought, I replied, "Whatever. I'll forgive you once you've fixed my wedding dress." Half a year later, Lily returned my wedding dress. The torn lace was replaced with a more delicate piece, and the tiny pearls were sewn back on one by someone she found. "All the damages have been restored to like new." "That's good." At least during the 6 months of repairing the wedding dress, she wouldn't be too bored, wouldn't spend all day thinking about Ethan and whether he loved her or not. During this period, 2 major events occurred. The first was that the girl who falsely accused my father of sexual harassment was sentenced, and my father returned to his position as CEO. The second event was Ethan being removed as CEO by unanimous board decision due to his failed decisions, and he was transferred to the southern branch. I wasn't surprised. He has been rising rapidly in the business world since he entered it. Everything has been too smooth for him. It's inevitable that he would underestimate his opponents, lack caution, and easily stumble. Before setting off, he came to see me again. Just like in the beginning, I stood on the marble steps of the mansion, watching him. He stood below, his posture stiff and awkward. He looked up at me and said, "I'm going to Cheng. I might stay there for many years. Does this count as atonement?" I didn't want to hear it. "It doesn't count. You made the wrong decision yourself, which is why you ended up in this situation. It has nothing to do with me." I turned and walked away. Lily is about to follow Ethan to the south. Here she was all alone, and I was the only one who came to see her off. She sat in the ordinary business car, rolling down the window to look at me. The light in her eyes dim. I knew what she was worried about. The Cheng branch has always been rumored to be a pit. Once you go, it's hard to come back. This trip ahead is uncertain. I softly reassured her, "Don't worry too much. Cheng is actually quite nice. Cheng has many delicious fruits that aren't found in the north." She curved her lips into a smile. Her gentle yet radiant demeanor reminded me of how she looked when we first met. Tears streamed down her cheeks again. "Thank you, Ella. I'm in the northern city, studying and furthering my education. I've earned an MBA and also learned flower arrangement and oil painting." My father didn't stay at the headquarters either. He later volunteered to transfer to a branch company. I assisted my father while accompanying him on his travels across the country, experiencing all its prosperity. I'll never obsess over those trivial matters again. Ethan had some achievements in Cheng, but we never saw each other again. Years later, I received a message from Lily. She and Ethan spent 10 years of marriage together, ultimately choosing to end the relationship. She was different from me. Without family background, she could only rely on Ethan. She was always clever and quickly learned how to do business by utilizing Ethan's resources. With her own career established, she finally found the courage to break free from the past and start living independently. I think this is very good. There is still a long way to go, and we all have the chance to start anew. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.